All right, hey there, you have stumbled upon the One Very Ordinary Man channel, and this, my friends, is part 2 of a 3-part series. So part 1 was making the metal frames for these beautiful tables right here. Part 2 is going to be making the wood tops and trying my best to plug holes and ant holes and wormholes and whatever in the tops prior to actually doing part 3, which is an epoxy pour on these same tables. So stay tuned, here we go. All right, this, my friends, is One Very Ordinary Man style of track saw. Okay, you just grab whatever piece of crap you have laying around that's straight, and you clamp it to the board, and you run your saw along it. Good enough. Don't need no stinking fest tool just yet. All right, so right here I am drawing lines across the boards, basically for where I'm going to be putting my biscuits in. And I bought this little biscuit joiner thing, whatever thingamabob. It's the handiest thing since sliced bread. It may not be the best one you could buy, but it worked for me anyway, and it saved me from the foolishness of thinking I was going to put dowels in here, or the foolishness of not putting anything in here. So I was happy as a lark to have bought this little biscuit joiner, and you know, if there's extra biscuits, you can always eat them. All right, so we're doing a little rap tap tap here, and a little rap tap tap there again, and trying to get everything nice and flat, put more clamps up on the top, and you know how this goes. You can never have enough clamps, but that's how many clamps I have, so that's what we're going with in Ordinary Man land, and we got it mostly flat. Okay, so these boards that I was using came off of my sawmill, and they had tons, I mean tons of holes in them, ant holes or whatever, you know, some kind of bug had been drilling holes everywhere in these boards, and so this particular top was extraordinarily bad, and I decided, you know what, rather than sit there and decide which piece I was going to cover, let's just cover the entire bottom side of the board. And there were knot holes and so on, and you know, knot holes without knots in them. And then what I attempted to do here, which kind of worked and kind of didn't work, was fill in the little bug holes by pouring epoxy on the top and then moving it along the top and hoping that it would fill down in the voids. Well, I'll tell you something about epoxy. The viscosity of epoxy is inherently frustrating to one very ordinary man because it takes some time for it to actually seep down into tiny holes and cracks and crevices. And so what happens is that you pour into that tiny hole or crack or crevice and you think, man, this is such a small little hole, you know, it'll just kind of sit there. But over the course of many minutes, a bubble will form and pop up to the surface and you'll be left with nothing but a void. So here you see I've got all these voids even after I've gone over this with a little bit of epoxy, not intending to actually cover the top, but just to fill in these voids. So since that didn't work very well, I decided, hey, I'm going to get smart and I'll get some wood filler for the other top and try that. So I went and got this 3M putty wood filler, whatever it's called. You can see it on the picture there. And started filling in around these voids, and I used a putty knife and tried to push it in. And that actually probably worked as good as anything. I didn't really care about the color in this case because they're just work tables, all right? I'll worry about the color on a real table sometime, but I will have to say that it actually worked pretty decent for these tiny little holes to fill in that way. All right, so the first table that I tried to fill holes using clear epoxy, since that didn't work out very well, I found some of this JB Weld epoxy sitting around and I thought, well, I'll try shoving that in the holes and just taking a putty knife and pressing it in there and then sanding it back off again. The thought was there that epoxy should stick to epoxy, right? So I tried this out. It kind of worked. Wasn't super impressive. You know, you kind of make a ball with this stuff and it's very doughy. I mean, it's actually like a very thick dough and it's hard to press into things. So I wasn't super impressed with it. Anyway, here I am again with my ordinary man track saw cutting off the edges of the tables. And you know, eat your heart out, Festool guy, but this actually works. I may never buy a fancy tool. Well, maybe I will, okay. And here we are, we're just doing a little round over bit, going around the edges with the router. Rowdy. All right, so we got done routering and now we're doing a little bit more sanding again to just get that super nice and smooth. All right, here we're actually going to attach the bottom to the top, okay, the frame to the wood top. And you'll see, which may not be obvious here, but I'm using a little rubber washer between the frame and the top just to give it a little bit of a cushion. And so if there's any, you know, imperfection in the wood or whatever, this rubber washer kind of allows me some give in the whole scenario here. All right, friends, look at that. Tabletops are attached. They look pretty nice, actually. I'm almost ready to pour the epoxy on them. Just need to do a little bit more work to fill a few voids still. A few of those bug holes yet. So what I got here is a little kit through eBay that you can buy, you know, with random sizes of syringes and tips for them. I didn't see any sharp tips, so no, you know, shooting anything, right? But anyway, these were absolutely perfect for shooting epoxy down in these little wormholes and filling them up. And so that's what I did. I mixed up a little batch and then started filling one by one all these little holes that remained. And there were, you know, enough to be a pocket of pimples on there, let's say. All right, so then when I got all the holes filled, one final thing is I made up a small batch of epoxy and I poured it on the tables just to kind of seal everything up for sure, or what I thought was for sure. I just poured it on there and let it seal, and then came back with a sander and sanded it basically almost back down to the wood again. Went through the grits up to 220 grit. All right, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. These tables have been a lot of fun to build, and so I hope you're catching all three of the videos in this series. If not, links will be up here and in the description so you can catch the other two. In any case, I would appreciate your subscription and hope you do hit the like button. And, you know, if you're so inclined, comment, and if you got a question or whatever, that's perfectly fine. We're not such a big channel here. We can handle those, at least most of them. So we will see you around very soon on the next video. I look forward to doing more of these same types of things. I've got some other projects in the works with epoxy and so on that I hope will be interesting to you. So do stick around, and I thank you so much for watching. We'll see you around real soon.